This video is brought to you by Law Excellence IAS Academy.
Dear students, good morning. Welcome to Law XR&D. Let us start the discussion on today's newspaper, that is 5th August 2019. The first article for discussion, a political reinvention in a moment of crisis. In this article, the author tries to argue that Congress party need to be revived, and it is an important thing for the nation as opposition space cannot remain vacant like this. In this context, she gives 5 different suggestions. These suggestions are valid not just for the Congress, any political party to remain active in politics. In this context, remember a few things. In India, what we follow is called the first past the post system. In this system, winner takes it all. Let me say this way. In the last Lok Sabha elections, opposition parties together got 55% of the votes and ruling coalition got only 45%. In spite of this, the more number of seats are in the hands of the ruling coalition. It is mostly to the election system, that is the first past the post system. So that's why author says that it is the time India shall think on proportional representation. In proportional representation, the number of votes you get, thus will be proportional to the number of seats you gain in Lok Sabha. Obviously, vote is converting into voice. Every section of the people can have a representation proportionate to their voice in Lok Sabha. So this is what is important for India. But however, there are other challenges, that is instability. That is the reason why author has clearly, categorically said here that there has to be a thinking over proportional representation. If you see Israel, it has proportional representation system. But what is the consequence over there? There is a lot of instability. So, proportional representation system, smaller political groups, minorities, and then the voice of the people, it will be well reflected. But however, the challenge is too many political parties will crop up. Ultimately, it leads to a situation where there will be instability of the government. Now, moving forward, what are the suggestions which are being given for the revival of the party? If you see the Congress party as a age-old party, most of the leaders after the independence, these are moral exemplars. When moral leadership exists in a political party, and then that itself drives the party towards elections, power, and also it conducts the political party to the needs of the nation. So, moral exemplars should be the leaders of the organization. And the second, the organization structure has to be robust. So, it has to be decentralized and democratic. Today in India, we have high command politics, darbar politics, where every decision is made at the highest level of the political party. Instead of that, let's create a system where the village panchayats or village leaders elect the district leaders elect the state leaders in turn elect the national leaders. A kind of an approach where bottom up building up of the organization is necessary. The Congress was like that before, till Indira Gandhi has come to the center stage. Make an organization decentralized and democratic, especially political parties. If we see most of the regional political parties in India, these are kind of one-man dictatorships. That's how she described it as. So, centralized power, high command politics, lack of internal democracy is degenerating the political parties in India. And the next step, when leaders from different walks of life come with different perspectives, the debate within the political party becomes enriched. So, bring in everyone. Diversity of opinion is the strength of the organization and it reflects collectivity. It also brings in new culture, that is art of persuasion. Every politicking is an art of persuasion rather than use of authority. Authority will never lie with the person who gives the orders. It lies with the people who take it, who implement or who does the work. So it means that we have to ensure that diversity of opinions which has to lead to engagement of people, and there has to be persuasion among the people. If political parties are able to learn this art of persuasion, they will be successful. Now if we see the wrongs of the Congress party, in 1970s, the Indira Gandhi's regime is known for darbar politics, centralization, cult leadership. It is the reason of this centralization, it has led to, rather than people enjoying the love with the leaders enjoying the love with the people who are close to the central personality became the chief ministers. So this kind of darbar politics and centralization has led to the demise of Congress today. Next is political parties need new forms of legitimacy from time to time. If we observe the legitimacy which was there after the independence, the same kind of legitimacy do not exist today. Today, the political parties have to give hope. They have to provide for more economic benefits. They have to understand the new generation of the youth, their needs to get to the new legitimacy. Because the people today do not have the direct connect with the independence movement. So that's why what they see is for the last 20 or 30 years what happened before them. So Congress party or any party has to reinvent its agendas and also future plan based on people's expectations and aspirations which can bring in new legitimacy towards them. So these are the 5 points are essential if they ask suggestions for diversification of India's political arena or party system. These are most important 5 points. Please remember them. The next, pulling a Vietnam in Afghanistan. So, drawing parallels between Vietnam and Afghanistan, it sends us an important point. So, America was first involved in Vietnam as in support of French. So, France was the colonial power in entire Vietnam, that particular entire region. So, Cambodia, Laos, everything. So, in this scenario, after decolonization of the Asian continent, France don't want to live there. So communist forces started establishing. So in the Cold War era politics, United States wants to stop the spread of the communism. That's where the seeds are sown for Vietnam War. And initially, US has come in support of the government over there, especially in South Vietnam, rather than directly involving itself in the field. And slowly it was sucked into the organization. And once it was sucked into the war, there was no going out. It was a vicious cycle. And in Viet Cong, if we see North Vietnam, we have South Vietnam. In South Vietnam, there is a force called Viet Cong. So these Viet Cong are the communists who want North and South to be integrated. In the North Vietnam, Ho Chi Minh, he was the strong leader. So in South Vietnam, there was government. This government is corrupt. And Nguyen, he was the person, I think, leader. So this man is highly corrupt. And Ho Chi Minh is a simple man and enjoys the support of the masses. So this Ho Chi Minh trail towards through Laos, etc., it was able to supply the weapons to Viet Cong, and Viet Cong was able to viciously fight against the United States of America. And later, Lyndon Johnson, he has miserably failed with Vietnam War. When Nixon has come up, what was the option before him? Nothing, a safe withdrawal from or withdrawal with honor from Vietnam. So there were two conditions which were kept. America shall withdraw without any conditionalities, and then communist forces will not glorify it in return to it. And today, if we bring in parallels between these two, the first is it is America who is exhausted with the war, wants to get out of it. And second, the Taliban, these people do not want to have negotiations with the Afghan government. It means that they do not recognize the legitimacy of the Afghan government. Second, they also did not agree for ceasefire. And it means America was willing to negotiate with them in spite of their conditionalities only for the reason it is not ready for any further expenditure and any further loss of the life on Afghan ground. So, an interlocutor or ambassador was appointed for this purpose. Remember carefully, in Vietnam, once the America withdrew, communist forces got established themselves. But today, if America withdraws itself, it is the Taliban which is going to establish in Afghanistan. So communist forces have a progressive agenda in Vietnam, a strong moral leadership. But Taliban, they are a conservative group. Then the situation is going to go back, and that is not good for any country in the neighborhood. So that's what author tries to talk here. The next, the roots of sexual brutality. This is in the context of Unnao case. You know that the woman, she was sexually assaulted, gang raped, and then her father was arrested on wrong cases, put in jail, and beaten left and right, and he has to succumb to those wounds. And when the matter went to the Supreme Court and the matter is being investigated. There is an attack for life on that particular woman. So, in all these things, if we see, it makes the mockery of the criminal justice system in India. So, the people who are powerful, the people who have got strong connections, and who are having these patronage networks across the society, and the societal mindset, patriarchal mindset, all these can be stated as a reason for this particular situation. N. Victim of sexual violence is not seen as a victim, but her own chastity is being questioned in Indian society. Indian society and social authority is exercised on the minds of these young women, and they are being silenced with this social authority. And we saw in many a times it is being done this way. The woman is being paid some compensation for her loss of sexuality or loss of chastity, and then she will be made silenced too. So, the amount of emotional trauma the woman has to go through because of the sexual violence was never taken seriously in this Indian society, because there is a natural belief that the powerful can take the powerless for granted. So, this kind of power distance, power difference among the communities are due to entrenched caste system. Unless this caste system, voice for the voiceless, and strong the power for criminal justice system, or the rule of law, unless it gets stronger, we cannot have the security for women in this country. That is how author argues this way. Next is bigger and better. Remember why the Supreme Court is for. Let's take a research institution is existing in healthcare. If it behaves like a primary healthcare center, will it utility be served? Probably not. The Supreme Court is supposed to be the interpreter of the Constitution. And second, Supreme Court has to ensure the rightness or correctness of a law. If the Supreme Court is getting involved with mundane issues such as bail petitions and taking up issues which are not within its capabilities, then obviously this is leading to a situation where Supreme Court is becoming an ordinary trial court rather than an finest court of the world. So the number of judges, increasing it is not just the solution. Beyond that, we have to explore. Increasing in number of judges is a positive step to decrease the load on the Supreme Court. The second thing what is required is Supreme Court shall get involved with itself with constitutional cases. Third thing, regional benches can be appointed. These regional benches can take up any appellate matters with regard to civil cases if necessary to the criminal cases. The seat of Supreme Court at Delhi can look into matters of substantial question of law and to the constitutional matters. So, Supreme Court shall allow for regional benches. The regional benches increases the access to justice. If we see for the Supreme Court, most of the cases comes from High Court of Delhi and Court of Punjab and Haryana. So it means the proximity to Supreme Court is giving them great access from Kerala High Court. The number of cases going to the Supreme Court are very less. It clearly shows that the lack of access to Supreme Court is one of the reasons why the cases are not being appealed there. If we can develop the regional benches, obviously we are increasing access to justice. That's what we need to explore further. Freeing Kulbhushan. Kulbhushan Jadhav, who was arrested in Pakistan for espionage and terrorism, the matter went to International Court of Justice. In International Court of Justice, India has got a positive judgment to provide for consular access. Not providing for consular access completely, unimpeded consular access, it means unrestricted, is one thing which ICJ has questioned. As per Vienna Convention, any person of a different nation is arrested, there has to be unimpeded consular access to that particular person. But Pakistan did not hold it good. But even though after the judgment, Pakistan is not in a mood to implement the same. In this context, India and Pakistan shall talk the matter without high rhetoric. They have to keep the things low as the life of a man is on the line. So the way possible is keeping the rhetoric low, having the consular access to the Mr. Kulbhushan Jadhav, and providing for free and fair trial. These are the things we need to think about. The next is mob lynching. Rajasthan has passed a law. In this, lynching has been defined as any planned or unplanned attack based on certain criteria: sex, race, religion, caste, region, etc. So, Any person up to life, there can be imprisonment, and up to 5 lakhs punishment can be possible. So, can these tough laws resist it? Remember, lynching is a manifestation of intolerance. So, that's why any kind of lynching or an act that has promoted lynching or which has led to a kind of a sentiment towards lynching, these all are punishable offences now. It can be stated this way. Supreme Court of India has given certain guidelines in Tehsan S. Poonawalla versus Union of India case that every district shall have an officer. There has to be fast track courts. So this nodal officer has to ensure that a proper investigation happens on the ground and the courts has to adjudicate, provide fair trial for the victims of mob lynching. So all these provisions are given space in this. And second part of here is Manipur anti-lynching law. It has provided for responsibility on the officer to protect her. It means any dereliction of the duty, the officer is also punishable. But no such a provision exists in Rajasthan. So, a forward step. You can quote this as an example. Rajasthan passed an anti-lynching law whenever mob violence is asked as a question. Sees WC to set up course for new leadership. As I said to you before, in Neeraj article, any political party, it has to be decentralized and democratized. It means rather than appointing the leadership, let's elect the leadership. This leadership has to come from the grassroots levels in a bottom-up approach. And if CWC, a nominated body, is appointing the president of the Congress, it is nothing has changed in the party. Next is MP returns 25% of Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana Gramin funds. Remember here, PMAY, Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana Gramin. It is centrally sponsored scheme with 60% of center's funds and 40% of states funds. Most of the times with CSS, the states say that they are unable to meet their obligations which they want to take it forward. In this case, Madhya Pradesh government, unable to meet its 40% obligation, has done away with its targets, or whatever the house units allocated to it, it do not want to go forward with 25%. It wants to voluntarily cut down its allocated houses. That's what this thing. So we have to see it from criticism of centrally sponsored schemes. If we see it from states perspective, the center for its priorities asking the states to allocate 40% of the money. So states, what they ask is give out that 60% of the money and we will determine our priorities, how it has to be spent. Here if you see for Madhya Pradesh government, former loan waiver was more a priority rather than building them the houses. The next, Jammu and Kashmir leaders placed under house arrest. We do not know what is going to happen in Jammu and Kashmir. I think BJP can go to an extent of doing away with Article 370, Article 35A. Our third option is to break down the Jammu and Kashmir into union territories. These three options it can try out. But remember one thing, Jammu and Kashmir and a separate constitution is considered by their people as a connecting link with India. So in this case, abolition of Article 370, the BJP argues that can make the Kashmir an integral part, a seamless connect to India. There are two perspectives to it. If you see from a Kashmiri view, the Article 370 was a promise of India to Kashmir. And then other view is Article 370 is the reason for the Kashmiris not getting properly integrated, feeling themselves as Indians. So obviously BJP believes in the abolition of Article 370. That's the rhetoric they made during the elections. It can move forward, but for a long time it will divert all our energies away from the real important issues like poverty, unemployment, economic crisis, liquidity crisis. I hope that I believe that, not hope that, sorry. In the next 2 years, there will be worst economic crisis India is going to face, if I'm not going to be wrong. So the land prices will get slashed. As of now, it is the markets which are getting slashed. Slowly it shifts into fixed properties which will get slashed soon. So when there is no economic activity, industries are closing down. I think today I was reading in the newspaper itself, Tatas are giving this particular production holidays. Production holiday is an extreme step for any manufacturing unit. And most of the automobile sectors, these are facing worst crisis now. So obviously, and Tata showrooms will not have orders, and then there will be no petrol. This is all is an example for recession. So Indian economy, it is on a downward spiral, worst like ever. Hope this country will be saved by God. Thank you very much. Have a great day.